Hello, welcome to ACAB True Crime. I am, and it is going to be the third live of the series. I have been noticing that are happening in like the Pacific Northwest and just on like the West Coast in general, and a group of different incidents or things that have happened that seem to overlap with each other. And I don't know exactly, I just want to put it all out there and kind of open it for discussion. But first, as I've been the live with a little spell for us, and then I'll light a candle and a incense thing. Okay, so I speak without needing it to be perfect. I let the mess be part of the message. May what's hidden surface. May the patterns show themselves to me or through someone else. I welcome clarity, even if it comes sideways. Let what needs to be seen, so mote it be. Okay, cool. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Oh, and actually, I'll do a little bell ringing too, just to get away any bad juju. Okay. And some protection spell too, because this stuff is kind of weird and creepy. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies talking about it sometimes. So, all right, let's jump into. So I guess where I left off last time, and like kind of as I said in my little spell poem, I do feel like some of the information that I have about all of this stuff is a little messy, and because it's like as I start to look stuff up and then get further into things, then I'm like, holy shit, there's this other thing that's totally seems to be connected. And so then I will link that, but then I end up kind of losing like a clear pathway of it all. And I'm just like kind of have all this stuff like jumbled together, and like half of it might not be relevant and the other half might be relevant. So just an FYI about that. But yeah, so the last two lives, I spent like all of the time going over the incident that happened in California, and it was in, let's see if I can see it. It was up in Northern California, and it was at a fireworks warehouse that was actually like illegal to be firing fireworks at that, not to be firing fireworks, well that too, but also like they didn't have the actual license to be able to sell the amount or the types of fireworks that they found like at this warehouse area. And it actually was like a huge explosion, and it ended up killing like 7 workers that were there, and it was super shady the way that they dealt with it. And it ended up being that the like a volunteer firefighter and the sheriff of that area like were at the warehouse at the time, and that the sheriff actually owns like the company that supposedly owned that fireworks business that he was illegally selling fireworks out of. But it was called like it started with like a D. It was called like destructive techniques or whatever, I think, something like that. Anyways, if you haven't really like gone too much into that incident and like the victims, and kind of tracing some of their or looking into their history a little bit in terms of just who they might have been working for and like why they were working, because that was the other thing, is like there was like 3 brothers that worked there, and just like a big like group of guys, and then they weren't even able to like go try to save them, and it was weird. So anyways, I covered that in the live 1 and 2 about the Pacific Northwest stuff. It's pretty interesting because they're definitely like this very layered, like in some of the pressers that they do. So Okay. I think I'll bring this up later. But I think I did mention that there was like a connection to Shrimp Boy, and that a lot of the people that were in that explosion were also kind of affiliated, or it looked like they came from San Francisco area or like Oakland area. So anyways, that's the history there, but it is like a big deal, and like I definitely, there's a lot of places you could take it to, but like kind of want to get back onto all these other incidents that have been coming up that kind of remind me a little bit of this or seem like they could overlap. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. And I have like a list of like, honestly, I probably have like 15 different incidents that I want to talk about that I have like seen in the news lately that I just was like, huh. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of those tonight, and that's okay. But just to let you know, that's like what the goal is um, for tonight. And also, like some of the stuff, like I said, I've been crazy adding certain, like I'll copy and paste certain things. Like once I find something, I'm like, and then another thing will come up. And so then it just gets kind of clusterfucky. So I'm not exactly sure how that will end up showing up tonight, so please forgive me in advance. Oh, also, if you are here and you're not subscribed, that would be super awesome if you could subscribe. It is free, and also like the video, it makes like a big difference for smaller creators to get those likes up. So and yeah, I guess we'll just jump in. I think I'm gonna not pay too much attention to the chat at the moment. I'll be looking at it like here and there just to make sure that people aren't saying stuff and I'm not noticing too much, but I'm going to try, because I think that the chat is what can get me kind of like thrown off with some of my lives. So, oh, and the other thing too that I was going to say is like the last few lives that I have done have been on the unsealed documents from the Brian Koberger case, and I honestly started getting a little bored of that because it was just like reading all of the records like straight off of whatever. So I have been wanting to present this information in the like notes that I have for tonight's live, like even before the documents became unsealed, but I thought the documents kind of took precedence. So that's why I'm kind of falling back into this, because hopefully it can maybe break up the so like the mundaneness of like reading over these documents with them there being like hundreds of them. Hold on, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay, so here's just like a couple of themes that have come up in the cases that I'm going to be presenting. And they don't all have to do with all of these things, but some of them, and so things that I want to discuss in detail, and then also to look for with patterns that aren't necessarily being named in some of these like strange and chaotic incidents, just to find out like what's really going on. But some of the things that have come up for me that I have wondered about is pizza store explosions, like a lot of them, a lot of firework explosions, like evacuation of areas, like big areas where they are trying to get blocks of people out from like the middle of the city. The Pacific Northwest specifically, and the West, and then just a lot of rugged terrain in a lot of these cases. Like some of them take place in the city, but then a lot of them also take place in these like really like rugged areas that are pretty easy, I think, to get like lost in, especially if you've had training, like military training, to be able to like survive, like survival training type stuff. And that's the other thing, is paramilitary things that have come up a lot, and fire related events like firefighters have come up a lot that I've seen, and then also like recent shootings that have been like snipers or kind of just like weird things. And this is all pretty much recently and in the area of Pacific Northwest. There are a couple of cases that I'll bring up, but I'll mention with that they are not in this Pacific Northwest, like California area. But yeah, anyways, all of these I feel like are definitely interconnected. So let's, I think, start with the one that was like the most shocking recently. And this is actually one that came up later. It was actually when I was in the middle of creating this kind of cheat sheet or bullet point list to present these. And hold up. Okay. What did I just say? Okay, so yeah, let's just start off with the one that, yeah, okay. So I think I'm going to try to present these in terms of kind of the types of incidents they are. So I'm going to start off with explosions because that's kind of like what we've already started out with. So like I said, in videos 1 and 2, the live for Pacific Northwest weird incidents and stuff, that contains information and discussions about the Yolo County warehouse explosion that I kind of briefly explained just like shortly ago, just a little bit ago. And then there's and now the rest of the ones that I'm gonna present also have to do with like explosions. And to me, something that like I mean, I don't know a lot about fireworks, but like I feel like fireworks might be a little bit of like a cover or like a name to be able to stay under the radar in terms of being able to sell like explosives or like bombs. And one thing that I will add too that I found interesting, and like this is a little bit of a stretch, but and I don't like want to generalize anything, but I through some of my research with the Yolo County firehouse or fireworks explosion, you know, they evacuated an area all around them. They weren't able to go in because they didn't know. And it's like, well, if you know what kind of fireworks are in there, what do you mean you don't know? Like it seems to me like they actually didn't know what was the like, I mean, yeah, it was a fireworks warehouse, but what was actually in there and like why did they not want people like around? And I also like have that, I'm like, well, does it like maybe include some like bioweapons, you know? Who knows like what they're up to out there. Um so yeah, but I do think that explosions and like bomb making material like is um I'm sure that like YouTube is not gonna like me saying that stuff, but yeah, and like some of the when I looked back into the histories of some of the victims from the Yolo firework warehouse incident, they went back to some organized crime in San Francisco, and it had to do a lot with like Chinese like mafia members or like almost like secret societies they had before they kind of turned into more like organized and gangs and like and China actually like you know they were the ones that invented like fireworks, you know, and explosives, and they still to this day are I think the like by far like the biggest sellers of explosive material. So like I think 80% of explosive bomb material is sold out of China. And I don't know specifically for like illegal things and like under the table like arms selling, but we definitely know that it goes on because there's even been senators like I think I might have brought that up in the first 2 videos that have gotten in trouble for um, being like taking bribes or like giving bribes and then opening up like connections for arms like sales. So that's a little weird. Okay, so anyways, I'll start with the incidents that have to do with like big explosives or like maybe fireworks or something. And that the one that caught my eye the most was I don't know if I have this actually written down. 1 second. Okay, yeah. So it was on, I believe it was on July 17th. I will pull that up real quick and share that. Let's see. Oh, wait, hold up. Where is this? Okay, this is it. All right. Great. All right. What the hell? What do you mean? My bad. They're like, share the tab instead, but I'm like, hold on. Let's cancel. Let's try to do this. Dude. 0. What the hell? Well, whatever. I guess I can't share the audio. That sucks. What does it mean by share the tab? Chrome tab. It is. That's what's there, but it's like a window. I don't get it. Meow. Weird. I don't know. Boom. Okay. So there's not going to be sound. All right. So there was a huge explosion that ended up killing 3 deputies in LA, and so then they started doing some searches like in Santa Monica and also like clearing out some other areas. So I'll kind of go over a little bit of that. And this is like a big deal. Like obviously, like they said that these were the three people that were these guys, the fallen sheriffs. They were all part of like an elite group that was about like it was the bomb squad basically. It dealt with like explosives and they were like highly trained. And this like the head of the sheriff, I wish I could play it for you guys because it's seriously kind of funny. Like it's not funny, but like he just is it's like super sweet the way he's talking about it. He's like, and anyways, I mean, I don't know. That sounds so dumb right now, the way I'm like saying that. But if you saw it, you know what I'm saying. He just seems like a sweet guy. And like, obviously, it's really bothersome to him that these cops have died, you know. So, anyways, this is a little bit about the incident. It was, oh, here's the other thing that's kind of weird about it is that it's at this place called the Biscayne's training facility. And a couple of other incidents that I'll be bringing up and showing also seem to surround or be involved with a training facility for like the like I don't know, like some type of law enforcement groups. So and hold on, sorry, I'm getting like a little distracted here. I wish that I could. Okay. They were Deputy Joshua Kelly Eklund, Deputy Victor Lemus, and Deputy William Osborne. And they were all assigned to the Special Enforcement Bureau's arson explosives detail. And they said that, oh, and this is also like the largest number of deaths in the LA Sheriff's Department since like 1847, I think they said. Oh, no, 1857 here. It said the catastrophe marked LASD's worst loss of life in a single incident since 1857. And Yeah. Oh, interesting. Um, a memorial plaque in Irving marks the spot where two deputies and two constables, as they were then known at the time, were shot and killed in 1857. They were pursuing a gang of notorious outlaws when they were ambushed. The county sheriff at the time, James Barton, was among the four killed. The deputies who were killed Friday also worked at the board of supervisors. No one else was injured in the explosion. So that's interesting too, because a couple of the things that are, or other incidents that I'm going to go over, have to do with ambushes and like ambushing people. So all very interesting, or like, just things to keep in mind. Um, so, okay, I'll try to just do a little bit of a rundown of like what actually happened with that incident. But it was apparently there was a garage in Santa Monica, and I think I have, let me see, I think I have that article from Santa Monica. Okay. Yeah. All right. Hopefully, if I can switch. Okay. My bad. Okay, here's another article. What works? These. Okay, that's better. Oh, fuck. Okay. It says FBI probes possible use of explosives or hazardous materials in deadly incident. Um, It says the incident, believed to be accidental, prompted a swift response from emergency services and the involvement of the FBI and Department of Homeland Security. The FBI is investigating whether explosives or hazardous materials were used in the deadly explosion or not. So, okay. Yeah, so I'll just tell you real quick, like I said before. All right, so someone called in. It was like there apparently, and like I can't remember where. What the hell? Hold on, hold on. Yeah, I'll tell. Okay, so Santa Monica apartment. So there is this Here we go. Oh, here we go. Okay. What? Okay. All right, all right. So here we go. No, how do I? Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay, so as it says, there is Santa Monica apartment is focused a probe into blast that killed the three LA County Sheriff deputies. So that what happened was, well, fuck it. Should we just like read the article? Because I think it's like something that said like someone called in. So I wonder who it was too, because it was like someone called in because they were going through their storage unit in the basement and they found something that they didn't know what it was. And then they came and cleared it out. And then it was the next morning that it exploded. And then as things and killed the 3 guys, and because they had taken it back to the training facility, like over across, like in East LA, away from Santa Monica, and where they were searching for this stuff. So, and I think they were looking into who, because it was someone that had left it there like a long time ago or something. And it's like, dude, who's just keeping like explosives around? But apparently, like, maybe it was like a grenade. Like that does happen sometimes. And I'm actually part of like a Reddit group that's called like EODs or something like that. And people will like put in pictures and be like, yo, is this a thing? So, but okay, let's just read about this a little bit. You're just investigating there. Okay, yeah. Explosives collected in Santa Monica. 3 deputies were killed Friday in an explosion at the LA County Sheriff's Department Biscula's Center Training Academy in East LA while handling explosive materials. No cause for the blast has been determined, but the probe brought investigators Friday to an apartment complex in the 800 block of Bay Street in Santa Monica in connection with the explosion, according to the department spokesperson Nicole Nishida. The 3 deputies killed in the blast responded to a call to assist the Santa Monica Police Department at the complex on Thursday. Okay, so it sounds like Santa Monica is separate from the LA. And they say a grenade was recovered in the Santa Monica apartment complex Thursday. Yeah, and Friday is when the huge explosion happened and killed these 3. So a grenade was recovered at the Santa Monica apartment complex Thursday, a city police officer told the Times. Sources who were not authorized to speak publicly told the Times that investigators are trying to determine if the explosives were the ones that caused the blast. Michael Kellman, who lives in the building, told the Times that a fellow tenant called the police Thursday after discovering a bag of grenades tucked away in her storage unit. She has been living in the building for several years and believes the bag was left behind by the former occupant, he said. Authorities returned to her unit Friday to scour the apartment for any remaining explosives. The Santa Monica Police Department evacuated residents from the Bay Street apartment building Friday afternoon, while authorities continue to search the location for any additional explosives material. Nishida said. The FBI and Los Angeles Police Department's bomb squad are assisting with the investigation. The Bureau of ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is expected to lead a federal probe into the cause of the explosion. Nancy, who lives on Bay Street and chose not to provide a last name for privacy reasons, said officers knocked on her door late Friday afternoon and informed her that there was an active investigation and she must evacuate. Nancy asked an officer whether her nanny would be allowed to move their car, which was in front of her home. No one is allowed, the officer told her. Friday morning, employees told the Times they heard a massive boom around 7:30 a.m. coming from the parking lot where the sheriff's bomb squad keeps its vehicles. They heard glass shattering and screaming. Okay, so that's weird to me that they would like right off the bat. Well, first of all, this stuff happened on Friday morning, right? So they like apparently get it from a neighbor, someone that lived there, someone left it. It was like a bag of grenades, it sounds like. And then they take it out of there, and then like another 24 hours later is when they come back and they say, hey, we're evacuating this area. Like that seems like pretty shitty police work to me. Like obviously it would have been an issue over those 24 hours too, if it was going to be one. And to me, it just kind of suggests that like there's stuff that's going on that like they don't have a handle on and they don't know what's actually going on. And it's just kind of scary. They also talk about how in like there's it's like a different, I think that what is it called? like the area where Marina Del Rey boat searched in probe of blast that killed the 3 deputies too. So that's kind of weird. And like they were shown taking stuff off of there too. So it's like, I wonder who the boat was registered to and who maybe had living records before the person currently living there in this apartment building. So, and then also it sounds like they were just like in the parking lot, like when the 3 deputies like were killed. So that's interesting too. Like you would think that, like, what were they doing in the parking lot? Like, wouldn't they be in the building or like having brought it into the building by then? Um, okay, he says it's the worst day in history for the LA County Sheriff's Department. You never get up in the morning expecting this kind of news, never. And sadly, as often as we deal with this, it does not get easier. It never gets easier. It hurts. Yeah, this is crazy. They were like pretty elite, like police officers. I mean, I don't know, they each had served 19, 22, and 33 years within the department, which is pretty crazy. Okay, let's see if we can go to this one. All right. So here's the investigation into blast that killed 3 deputies expand to the second location in Marina Del Rey. Oh, okay. The investigation into an explosion that killed 3 LA County Sheriff's Department bomb squad technicians at a training facility expanded to a second location Tuesday in Marina Del Rey. Investigators seeking to track the origins of grenades believed to have caused last week's deadly blast conducted a search in the 4200 block of Via Marina. Footage from news helicopters showed a law enforcement robot being used to search a group of storage units in an alley behind the Shores apartment complex, as ABC7 reported. The action followed a search Monday of a boat in the marina. Damn. Okay. Well, I wonder what the address was in Santa Monica, if this is the same place. It says witnesses said more than a dozen police cars swarmed the 13900 block of Marquesas Way on Monday morning, with officers interviewing boat owners and evacuating people from the dock. If not immediately clear by the afternoon whether authorities had found it was not immediately clear by the afternoon whether authorities had found anything on the boat. The grenades were found last week inside a Santa Monica apartment complex storage area and transported to East LA, where the explosion occurred Friday morning. The blast was the single deadliest incident for the department in more than 150 years, killing department veterans, detectives Joshua Kelly Eklund, Victor Lemus, and William Osborne. While the pain of this loss will always be felt, we hope our efforts provide the answers a tragedy like this demands, said Kenneth R. Cooper, special agent in charge at the Bureau of ATFE. The deadly explosion started as a routine call, with the Sheriff's Department's bomb squad members responding to a Santa Monica apartment complex after a resident found grenades, apparently left by a previous tenant, tucked away in their storage unit. The explosives, described by law enforcement sources as military-grade hand grenade and fuses, were taken from the complex in the 800 block of Bay Street on Thursday night and moved to the Visquilas Center Training Academy, photographed and stored. So they were stored on Thursday night in that training facility. So, like, that's weird that there was like an explosion in the parking lot. The bomb squad at the time believed that at least some of the grenades were inert, which means that they are not working anymore, I found out, and that the technicians had taken an x-ray or scan of some of the ordnance and cut into at least one before it detonated. So it sounds like they were like, oh, no, all these grenades are good. Let's actually, and then they did x-rays on them. And then they cut into one before it detonated. So to me, like, that sounds like something advanced now, like different from what they're dealing with, I guess. And it makes me wonder more about the person where the storage unit is that had all of the grenades. It's unclear how these explosives ended up inside the garage storage unit in the first place, who left them there, and what caused them to detonate as the technicians moved it. Those are just a few of the questions officials are trying to answer as they try to piece together what led to the deadly blast. Justin Kelly, who spent decades with the Connecticut State Police Department serving as commanding officer of the unit that included the bomb squad, said the age of these types of devices can range from World War I era to present day and are extremely common. Really? Extremely common? Sometimes grenades are brought back from overseas by military members or unknowingly accepted as souvenirs. Some people also buy the grenade shells and attempt to make them live again, he said. A lot of it comes back from people who have served, who have been in the war and have brought something back with them, said Kelly, who is now the vice president of global operations for Allied Enhanced Protection Services. We would probably handle one or two a week throughout the course of a year. But the thing you have to realize is unexploded ordnance still has lethality to it, so you must handle it as if it was present day manufactured and live. Although the investigation into Friday's incident is being led by the LA County Sheriff's Department Homicide Unit, the ATF is assisting. The federal agency deployed its National Response Team, a group of investigators who reconstruct scenes, identify the point of detonation of an explosive device, and can help determine the cause of the blast. Authorities said it was too early in the investigation to determine whether the transportation or handling of the explosives was according to department protocol, and emphasized that the inquiry could take weeks or months to complete. Typically, bomb technicians responding to a call about an explosive device will x-ray the material to determine whether it has been improvised, experts said. You can't have the assumption that it basically came from the manufacturer's shelf and just ended up in someone's closet. You have to go into it under the premise that maybe something has been done to this, Kelly said. If it wasn't improvised, you're going to take care of that right then and there. You're not going to attempt to move it. Sometimes technicians will render the device safe at the scene, but in many cases, the grenade is moved out of a location either by a person or remotely, and the spoon, the safety pin or lever, is taped down so that it won't move during transport and enable it to detonate. Then the device is placed in a total containment vessel and moved to an area where it can be safely detonated, Kelly said. With 3 people, I'm sure they all agreed to what they were going to do, he said. Sometimes you can take the best steps, the most well-intentioned steps, and tragedy like this still occurs. It is unclear why the device was brought back to the Bisquelas Center Training Academy. Yeah, that's interesting too. Barry Black, a former FBI bomb technician, said that working with improvised explosive devices is inherently dangerous and that bomb technicians are trained to understand that even the best resolution can still result in what we call a high-order detonation. Black, who responded to the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, said investigators will treat this like other post-blast scenes and try to build a timeline of what happened before and during the explosion. If there is a witness who is near enough to know what happened, they will be vital to the investigation, he said. Well, that's really interesting to me, is that well, wait, who's working now? It sounds like what he's describing is what they're probably doing right now, like with the whole scene, and it sounds like it doesn't look like it was like just, I don't know, to me it seems like they're making it sound like it's an actual, like it's been messed with and it was like an actual explosive, um even more so than just like an old school grenade or something. All right. Black said there's probably Black said there probably is detailed documentation of recovered items that investigators will use as part of the inquiry. The big question is what happened at the moment of detonation, he said, adding that investigators will examine the footprint of the detonation and the fragmentation pattern to help answer the question. So that's like same thing, like where like maybe like blood spatter or things like that can prove, yeah, how they were before, I guess, or during. It says residents living near the Santa Monica apartment, a building, were still trying to make sense of the police activity that consumed their quiet neighborhood over the weekend. The building where the devices were found is unassuming, modern, and secured by a gate, separated from the rest of the neighborhood by a thin strip of shrubbery and trees. On Monday, small remnants of caution tape scattered around were the only evidence remaining of the investigation. Over the weekend, multiple law enforcement agencies swarmed the neighborhood, telling residents to evacuate and blocking streets from public access as they scoured the apartment complex for evidence of additional explosives. The situation left some residents uneasy. Yeah, no shit. As someone who lives here, when you're coming back from the beach and your street is blocked off and they say you can't get into your home and we can't tell you why, it's just something that's never happened here, resident Chase McDonald said. Yeah, that's super crazy, I would say. Is that it? Hmm. Okay. Should we look over the rest of these whatchamacallits too? Hold on. Hey Landon, how's it going? Good to see you. Um, welcome. I decided to switch things up tonight and talk about some weird stuff that I've been seeing like come out over on the like more Pacific Northwest area. Did you have a good week, Landon? Are you done working? Okay. Yeah, so this is actually I am going over like the deadliest day or incident in LA, like county history since 1857. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry, Landon, that if you work every day, you should give yourself a break. Although, if you can give yourself a break, obviously. But I feel that I worked every day and then I like had a mental breakdown. So, but there was more involved than just that. But you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm just talking about these like weird explosions that I've been seeing. So there's like this explosion that took place like in Yolo County at like a warehouse with a bunch of explosives. Oh damn, Lennon, that's cool. You run a ranch alone. That's badass. Do you have horses? I love. Oh my gosh, I just remembered that I had the craziest dream the other night. It must have been last night about horses. Oh, I think it was actually 2 nights ago. But do you have horses? I love horses. I used to be like a camp counselor at a stable, or like the stable part of the camp, which is pretty cool. Um, but yeah, definitely running a ranch, like any farm area. One of my like good friends in college, her family is from like a dairy farm, and it was the same shit with them too. And it's like crazy because they don't even like, you would think that for all that work you'd make like a ton of money, and it's like that's not really the case, you know. But okay, so basically you train racehorses. Oh, that's crazy. Like, so I have a cousin who does that too. Um, yeah, she like kind of retired from it like in the last year, but she is like looking to find some other jobs. She just doesn't like absolutely need to work, and she's like she wanted to move back to Minnesota to be closer to family and stuff. But yeah, she like my cousin did the same thing too. But she didn't have like a stable or anything that she worked at, so she was like traveling all the time, and or like working at like certain, you'd have to like work below where it freezes, so she had to get out of Minnesota if she wanted to like work year round. But that's cool. That's a cool job. Have you had any winners, like pretty big winners of horses? I love going to the horse races. Like I love going to the horse races. I actually might go to them like in the next couple of weeks actually, because we have one in Minnesota called Canterbury, and they do horse races. And then there's like another place called like Running Aces, and they do like dog races and carriage races, I think. Or like no, greyhound races and then carriage races, I'm pretty sure. But I haven't really seen that. But I love Canterbury where they do the actual horse races. But okay, so I'm gonna just read a little bit into this. Oh, that's cool. Washington, like state. Yeah, you've been to Minnesota. That's cool. What do you think of Minnesota? Minnesota right now has been really fucking hot and really smoky and hazy. Like, I think we were like number two on like the unhealthy air spectrum. That's cool. Washington State is pretty, although they probably don't have horse races in the winter either, but I bet they definitely do in the summer. Um, that's the thing with like my cousin too, is she would like come up to Minnesota sometimes, like when they would do races here, and then she'd also go down to Chicago sometime too. But your ex's family is from Minnesota, or no, from Washington. Pickwick. Is that a horse that did well? I should ask my cousin like what her best horse's name was. I know she had like a really, really good horse one year, and then it ended up getting scratched before it was gonna like be in a really big race. So, oh, Pickwick, Minnesota. I've never heard of that actually. Sounds cute. Um, yeah. Is it north or is it south? Like, is it more of like a farm area or like up on the Iron Range? There was like my great grandpa came over from Finland and moved here to work in the iron like mines up in northern Minnesota. And yeah, that's kind of like how my family got here. Okay, nice. By Winona. Oh yeah, Winona is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, like I have a really good friend who just got back from like a Shakespeare festival, and the Shakespeare festivals during the summers at Winona, like on the campus there. It's so beautiful. Like I had been there once in college because I had a friend of mine that actually went to school at like St. Mary's, I think. But then like I don't know if I had never actually driven there during the day or something, because it was like I went and visited my like other friend now who is in the Shakespeare um whatever it's called, like festival. And then I was like, holy shit, it's so beautiful down here. Like I had never seen those cliffs like that. I was like, this is beautiful as hell. I was like, this might be like one of the most beautiful places in Minnesota that I've seen. It reminds me of like upstate, like New York or, something like that. Um, but yeah, I really like Winona. I'll look out for Pickwick next time I head down there. But, oops, what did I just do? Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm just kind of like reviewing this incident where in LA, this happened in like the date was July 19th, is it? No. I think it was the 17th that it actually took place, and they're described as the best of the best. Combined, they served the sheriff's department for 74 years, and they left behind grieving colleagues, and also left behind 16 children between them. Jesus. Between three of them, that means like each of them had what? Oh my God, that means like on average, each of them had like five kids and a third of a kid. That's crazy. They must be like involved in, well, I don't know. When I hear that many kids, I think of like religions. Like I'm Catholic, and I definitely know that like a bunch of families from South Minneapolis that have like huge numbers of uh, children they're usually Catholic, or at least old school ones. Now, I guess like we have a lot of Hmong families that have like a lot of kids. Like I'd say my closest friend that I have that comes from the biggest family. He comes from 15 kids, which is just like insane to me. And they like lived in like a 3-bedroom house. It was crazy. One time I like ran away from my house in high school and I like went and stayed with them in the basement. And I don't even think their parents like noticed that I was there. Oh, nice. Really? LA a week ago? Did you observe anything weird going on? There's like a couple of stories that or not stories, that like incidents that I'm gonna like touch on today in terms of LA stuff. More of like just like LA explosions. Maybe I should just move on because I feel like we kind of know. Um, I just went over pretty much everything from that. Hold on, we'll just do like a okay, so this is actually interesting though. They said the complex is now central to the department's ongoing investigation, which could result in negligent homicide charges against the person who built or stored the device that killed the men, law enforcement sources told the Times. So that's all that they're going to do is try to do negligent homicide. That's basically like manslaughter, right? And then they're also being assisted by the LA Police Department's bomb squad, the FBI, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and they will be leading a federal probe into the cause of the explosion. Okay, here's what we know about the 3 people that were killed. This is good to know. Yeah, I agree. Everything in LA is really weird. I had a bunch of friends that lived in LA, and like no cap on people that live in LA, but it does seem like it's just like hard to meet people that are like actually like authentic and like real. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of my friends had that problem too. Like they just had trouble making actual good friends that they didn't feel like that person was like using them for something or just like very surface level stuff, you know? At least that's the reports back. People from Minnesota are super deep, so no, I'm just kidding. But okay, like let's read over the details about the detectives that were killed in this explosion, and then I will move on to the next couple of things that I found that were kind of like, what? Okay. Detective William Osborne joined the Sheriff's Department in 1992 and had a deep love in investigations and a reputation as a peer leader, according to a department news release. He became a member of the agency's elite Special Enforcement Bureau in 2019 and was described as one of the tenured bomb technicians regularly relied upon when faced with a new challenge. They're the best of the best, Luna said of the agency's Special Enforcement Bureau. Osborne leaves behind his wife, Detective Shannon Rincon, 4 sons and 2 daughters. Oh, damn. His wife is a detective in LA, and they have 6 kids. I bet that happens a lot. I bet like a lot of people, I bet there's like a lot of people that marry another police officer, or at least women. I bet like a high percentage of women police officers marry fellow police officers. Says Osborne began his career at Men's Central Jail and also worked from the Pico Riviera and industry stations. Is that like the workhouse? Men's Central Jail is crazy, dude. Like, I actually interviewed there for my final internship when I was getting my doctorate in clinical psych. And actually, that was my favorite place. Like, I put that as my #1 rank. And I had like, I think I was choosing out of 8 different sites, and that was my #1. But I didn't match. And then my life kind of exploded, no pun intended. But yeah, it's a super interesting place. And like the mental health, I mean, it's basically like, it's almost like the biggest mental health facility probably in like the country, but it's not actually a mental health facility. It's like just the men's jail. And one thing that's interesting, I think, about jailers or people that worked as corrections officers. And like, just as a reminder, I have a background, a like professional history working in prisons in Minnesota, and I have worked in 3 different like levels prisons in Minnesota, doing a couple of different, I guess, things that clinical psychologists do, but mostly evaluation. I also did, like, I did psychosexual evaluations, like just regular psych evaluations, and then I also did some therapy, like group therapy and individual therapy. But a lot of it was mostly just like neuro psych assessments, because like the amount of brain, uh, I guess, like traumatic brain injuries and even PTSD and everything, it was like really complex. I loved it. It was super interesting, and it was really cool to be able to like connect with some people that had been in prisons for so long. But anyways, one thing that I think is notable, and I guess I don't really know like the statistics when it comes to like actual, like police officers, but I know for sure that there's a ton of like drugs and just contraband that floats around in prisons, like drugs and different, like, well, not necessarily alcohol. I mean, a lot of drugs, basically any drugs, like different cell phones, like sneaking a cell phone in. And a lot of that stuff, the majority of it comes from correctional officers. And it also is like a type of job where, like, if you're a patrol officer, if you're out on the street, like, you're not running into the same people day after day, usually. I mean, yeah, there's probably some frequent flyers that you see, but like, it's not like you're going and working with the exact same dude that's been on cell B for the last 30 years that you've been the guard for cell block B. You know what I mean? So it's like, really, it does give an opportunity for correctional officers to get pretty well acquainted with some of the offenders. And I think that's just something to keep in mind when thinking about, yeah, like corruption and correctional officers, or like different types of law enforcement. Um, yes, I agree, Landon. Um, I completely agree, because they like actually have the like power behind what they're doing versus the criminals, who are obviously like way, way in like the vulnerable place within that relationship, obviously. But yeah, um, yeah, and that's kind of like what I think I've maybe been coming up with terms, in terms of like a lot of these cases, and just like what I'm thinking might be happening is, as you start to get into it more and more, you're kind of like, wow, like there is a lot of opportunities for people to be crooked. And when you actually start looking into like some of these cases, like really in depth, you're like, holy shit, they are crooked. And it's so easy to do. So I feel like it's important to keep these things like out on the surface, and at least people like aware and talking about them, because I do think a lot of this stuff gets just like shoved under the rug. Like, how many people know that a sheriff owned the warehouse where those 7 people were killed in that like unexpected explosion? Like, obviously he has something to do with illegal explosives and bomb making material, I mean, but they're not like telling us anything, and they're like, oh, it's like a very complex case. It's like, okay, but like, it's just, yeah, I think it's good to always kind of just, yeah, be aware of those types of things, or keep those in mind. Anyways, yeah, so he served as detective for more than a decade, handling more than 100 cases each year, and was known for his work recovering stolen vehicles, authorities said. Known for his work recovering stolen vehicles. Interesting. In 2016, he transferred to the training bureau, and taught emergency vehicle operations before moving back into investigative work with the Special Enforcement Bureau. There, he handled arson cases involving major loss of life and property. That's interesting to me. That makes me like curious about why did he go to the training bureau in 2016 and then come back into investigative work. Like, I wonder if he was asked to do that or what. He regularly monitored new investigators and could be relied upon to provide relevant insight on a broad range of subjects, officials said. Okay, that's like the broadest statement ever. But he regularly mentored new investigators. Okay, well, that's interesting. All right, and then there's Detective Victor Lemus. Lemus came from a family of law enforcement professionals. Oh, similar to Olson. And joined the sheriff's department in 2003. So that was 11 years after Homeboy, before him. He leaves behind his wife, Detective Nancy Lemus, and 3 daughters. So he's also married to a detective. Okay. His 3, holy shit, his 3 sisters, Sergeant Belen Lemus, Deputy Perla Lemus, and custody assistant Wendy Lemus, all work in the department, as does his brother-in-law, Sergeant Robert Catalan. Wow, man. Talk about definitely coming from a family of law enforcement. That's like literally all of them. Interesting. In addition to being a talented investigator, he was an avid athlete who anchored some of the most difficult legs of Baker to Vegas. The annual relay race involves 10,000 runners from law enforcement agencies across the country who work together in teams to traverse 120 miles. Baker to Vegas, huh? Relay race. Huh. We're in teams to traverse 120 miles. Lemus began his career in the Twin Towers Correctional Facility before transferring to the Century Station, where he worked as a senior training officer and detective. Okay, so Century Station, I'm not sure where that is, but obviously it's somewhere in LA. But the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, that's, I'm pretty sure, the like hospital portion of the jail, because it's basically like, I mean, LA County is humongous, and I think there's like, at any given time, there's like over 10,000 people that are in that jail at any given time. And so a lot of people, because of how our like criminal justice system is set up and how screwy it is when it comes to like dealing with mental health and getting people like assistance or support before they like, you know, throw away the key or whatever. It's like something like 8-story. I think it's like 2 8-story buildings where it's like they're each like a hospital facility. So it's also like where people go if they have a heart attack or, you know, a broken leg or something, like coming in off the streets and like thrown into jail or gotten a really bad car accident. But they also have like a really big psych department there too. And that's actually where I ended up interviewing for my whatchamacallit, my internship. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Landon. It must be corrupt. They all have the same last name. I know, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, this is kind of like, you know, like the family, but allegedly. All right, yeah, he joined the Special Enforcement Bureau in 2017 and worked as a canine handler before becoming an arson and explosives investigator last year. Okay. He was well known for his notable arrests of career criminals and his ability to mentor fellow deputies, according to the news release. Okay. Career criminals. Okay. Oh yeah, this other one I'm gonna go to too, because this is kind of the stuff that I'm saying like keeps coming up like over and over, like different patterns coming up. Because like here like is a article put out, I believe, by the Times, like LA Times, deadly East LA blast, which is the one we're currently talking about, follows other incidents as at sheriff's training facilities. So it's like they have all these random training facilities, and also some of the stuff as I was doing a lot of like looking into some of these cases that kind of were popping up that I was like, this is interesting. Like a bunch of them have to do with like firefighters and like fireworks and I don't know, like anyways, you'll see as I start getting into them. But yeah, apparently they have had other incidents at training facilities or even training areas because there is some stuff like out in really the boonies that is like kind of just kind of no man's land, and there's a lot of like government property out there that they consider to be like training sites for different law enforcement. Like I know that there's like a really big site outside of Salt Lake City. I know that's Utah, but kind of the same idea. Um, okay, so I'll pull it. I wonder if I'll just nice. Okay, we'll go back to that. And then the last detective is Detective Joshua Kelly Eklund. Kelly Eklund was known as an outstanding field training officer who helped solve complex crimes and assist in the arrest of murder suspects, according to the department. He joined the sheriff's department in 2006 and survived by his wife, Jessica Eklund, and their 7 children, according to the news release. So he has 7 kids, but his wife is not a sergeant or part of the police department. He began his career at the Pitchess Detention Center North and North County Correctional Facility. Interesting that he would, like, all of these guys sound like they have worked in jail settings or correctional settings, not just, out on the beat. And he later served at the Lenox and South Los Angeles stations. During his time as a training officer, he mentored several new trainees and was known for being professional and articulate, officials said. He was promoted to the rank of detective at the Narcotics Bureau in 2016 before joining the Special Enforcement Bureau as an arson and explosive investigator in 2022. Details regarding memorial services for the fallen deputies will be announced in the coming days. Okay, I also went, I have this one that I want to go to too. Okay. See you later, Landon. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend. Don't work too hard. Okay. So here's another article by Los Angeles Times where it talks about a blast following other incidents at sheriff's training facilities. And it says, so this article says, LA County Sheriff's deputies on Friday morning, it wasn't the first time a deputy died at a training facility. Sheriff Robert Luna said the blast at the Besquilas Training Center in East Los Angeles marked the deadliest day in department history since 1857. But the most recent death at a training facility occurred last year when a deputy died from burns suffered in a fire that erupted in a shooting range. Suffered in a fire that erupted in it. What does it mean, a fire that erupted? To me, that sounds like kind of like an explosion. Okay. Most of the roughly 150 deputies who have died in the line of duty were killed under chaotic circumstances, shot or stabbed by suspects, struck by friendly fire, felled by heart attacks on the job, and killed in car, motorcycles, and plane crashes. Incidents like Friday's explosion, which occurred in the training center's parking lot, are bound to bring more scrutiny and potential legal liability. The 3 deputies who died, said to be department veterans from a specialized unit, have not been publicly identified. This was obviously before they did identify them. Luna told reporters at a midday news conference it could take months to get to the bottom of what happened. The family of the deputy who died last year is now suing the sheriff's department, alleging negligence from higher ups created a dangerous environment. State regulators have fined the county more than $300,000 for alleged safety violations at the shooting range. I wonder what they were specifically. And like just overall too, like I mean, for me, it's hard to determine whether things that show up with patterns are like just more negligence and that same pattern of negligence, or if it's actual like a conspiracy or like a corruption, you know. But either way, I think it's both. They're both important in like their own ways in terms of making sure that we get to the bottom of it one way or another. Obviously, because if we're having 3 people die on the job, like something's not going right, you know? So if that is like, there is a conspiracy going on, it's like, okay, that's important. Let's discuss this. But also, if it wasn't, it's still like, well, why is this negligent thing continuing to happen over and over again and injuring all these people? And at this point, worse comes to worse, whatever, it's, or like at a minimum, it's that the police department has not done a good job with staying up to their regulations in terms of how to have like a safe working environment. And like every company or government institution or company or I guess like group of people have like, they have, especially if it has to do with government, like a bunch of policies and procedures, like with OSHA. And especially when it comes down to like incredibly dangerous things like bomb squads, I would think that there is so many things that you have to follow by in order to ensure that you deal with everything in a safe way. And it's pretty crazy. I would say that like seeing things like this coming up in the news every so often, to me suggests that the LA County Police Department and Sheriff's Department is not doing a good job either writing their policies and procedures or actually following by them, and like why, you know. um okay, they said the deputies killed Friday at Basquila's Center were transporting an explosive device collected a day earlier in Santa Monica when it blew up in a parking lot, a law enforcement source who wasn't authorized to speak publicly told the Times. Okay, they're fantastic experts who handled many dangerous call-outs to collect ordnance. And then they talk about the last person who died on duty, which was over a year ago, which is good. Wow, that's impressive, actually. Oh, my bad. No, it was no. So the last guy that did, oh, crazy. So the last guy that did die in the line of duty was the guy from last year that was involved in this bad accident on in the training center or in the shooting range. So it's, that's how they're kind of like analogizing this to the incident with the 3 officers from that Friday. So it says here, I'm sorry if I didn't explain that very well, but it says the last LA County Sheriff's deputy to die in the line of duty was Alfredo Flores, who succumbed in April 2024 to burns suffered from the October 10th, 2023 fire at a shooting range at the Pitches Detention Center in Castaic. So that's weird. That's super weird. So the last 4 people that died in the line of duty for LA County Sheriff's Department all had to do with injuries sustained at training centers, like either that like bomb training place or like apparently on the shooting range. Like that's pretty weird. um it says Flores, a 22-year deputy and father of 4. All these people have been on the job forever too. Was doing a regular firearms recertification when the trailer style range burst into flames. According to a civil complaint his family has filed against the county. In a complaint of his own, the range master on duty that day, Mark Thorne, said he and Flores were trapped inside by a jammed door. He escaped, but not before suffering catastrophic burns, the complaint said. That's shady. So they were locked inside? Why the fuck were they locked inside? What the hell is this? So this one now is talking, I want to go to this one too. History of range trailer fires at LA Sheriff's Department. Okay, hold up. Let's just finish this one. Flores' attorney claims the sheriff's department should have known the range was in danger of catching fire. Gunpowder, lead, and other combustible material had built up inside the structure, the lawyers wrote. They cited a citation from state workplace regulators who wrote that accumulated propellant inside the shooting range posed a fire risk. Okay, so they did have a citation for it. The California Division of Occupational Safety and Health in 2024 fined the Sheriff's Department more than $300,000 for the alleged violations. Sheriff's officials have appealed the citation. After the deadly fire, the Sheriff's Department shut down its range trailers, which it had used since the 1980s as an affordable alternative to permanent firing ranges. So that means that they just bring around trailers where they practice range shooting in there, and apparently these trailers caught on fire and they got locked inside. That makes zero sense. A reserve deputy was killed in a training exercise in 1967. Michael Widgerdson was trying to disarm an instructor at a sheriff's facility in East Los Angeles when the instructor's gun discharged. According to the bulletin published by the Sheriff's Department Museum, the gun should not have been loaded. Widgerson died from a gunshot to his stomach, and a second deputy was struck in the arm, the bulletin said. Okay, let's go to this one. That's one I wanted to read over. Shut that one. Yeah, we read that. Okay. FBI probes possible use of explosive or hazardous materials in deadly incident. They said, wow, the department has faced multiple hazardous events over the past decade, including at least 4 fires at mobile shooting ranges used for deputy firearms training. That's fucking weird. Okay. All right, just these 2 articles left. Yeah, and then I think I'll keep going. Like, do I want to call it a day? But yeah, I'll keep going. Or all right, well, we'll just do these to start off with. Okay. The history of range trailer fires at the LA Sheriff's Department. To Stephen Propster, the swirling flames looked like something straight out of a Hollywood movie. They crackled and licked at his heels, and he fleetingly wondered whether he'd make it out alive. After nearly 3 decades at the LA County Sheriff's Department, Propster, then a deputy, knew this was one of his closest calls. It was the spring of 2019, so not that long ago, and he and 2 coworkers had been testing a training device inside one of the department's mobile shooting ranges when the trailer caught fire. It became a full-on inferno, Propster told the Times. 4 years later, that scene seemed all too familiar when a range trailer parked next to the county's Castaic jail complex went up in flames and landed 2 deputies in the hospital with 3rd-degree burns. It was at least the 4th time in less than a decade that a sheriff's department mobile range caught fire, a frequency of blazes that several firearms experts said was surprising. It's curious that they've had this number of fires, said Phil Ludos, a former Michigan police chief who is now vice president of a range trailer training company in Florida. That sounds kind of weird. And like all this stuff is private, so I'm like, dude, it's like this is how they're like training all the militias, that like January 6th shit, mark my words. Or allegedly, I guess. Did we not learn? If I had one fire in a mobile range, I wouldn't have another fire. That's what the guy said from like Phil said that. Typically, the sheriff's department relies on range trailers, so thousands of deputies can test their skills 4 times a year as required by department policy. After the October 10th blaze, the department quickly shut down all of its mobile firing ranges, launched an internal investigation, and called in the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for help. Well, that's a good idea. We need to know why it happened and get to the bottom of it so we can prevent it from happening again, Sheriff Robert Luna said afterwards at a news conference. So this is weird. So this is 4 different fires that have happened at these training facilities or these like mobile trailers where they have shooting ranges. And then also they now just had the deadliest day at another training facility where another explosion happened and like took the lives of more deputies. So, and like all right in a row, like there hasn't even been like one officer that was like shot in line of duty. It was like all of this, it seems to be happening like all close together. Like, I mean, they said they've been using these ranges since the 80s, right? But it's like, so in the last decade, like there's 4 decades, 2 score since, the 80s at this point. But all of a sudden it's just in the last decade. Like, why would they be getting more dangerous? Or like, why would they not be, I guess, like following, protocol now over the last like 10 years? I don't know. We need to know what happened and get to the bottom of it so we can prevent it from happening again, says Sheriff Robert Luna. But to some deputies and those who represent them, the latest fire seemed frustratingly preventable, especially considering how many had come before. It appears the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department has been caught once again trying to do more with less, resulting in an inadequate maintenance of these range trailers and serious injuries to 2 of our deputies, said Richard Pippin, president of the Association of LA Deputy Sheriffs, ALADS. ALADS is shocked to learn that there have been so many similar fires and there haven't been, to our knowledge, any changes to the range trailer procedures. Yeah, that's like a lawsuit waiting to happen. The Sheriff's Department has been using range trailers since the late 80s. In a county the size of Los Angeles, they offered an attractive and affordable alternative to relying on more permanent range firing ranges built in far-flung places. Instead of paying deputies overtime to spend a day driving to a fixed location for their required firearms testing every few months, the department could move the mobile ranges from station to station every week. 3 decades ago, officials said that aside from convenience, in some ways, mobile ranges were safer than outdoor ones. There are no distractions, Deputy Robert Drake told the LA Daily News in 1992. Here you have the target downrange, and that's it. At the time, the department had 5 trailers, though that number has expanded to 15. The 50 to 53-foot mobile structures usually have 3 shooting lanes overseen by a range master. The interior walls are covered with soundproofing foam, and a thick rubber or metal plate known as a bullet trap sits behind the target. So those are the ones that you always see, like people that, and then they are down, you have the body and it's down that tunnel. Almost looks like, like a bowling alley, and then it like comes back up and shows you like where you actually shot it or whatever, on like all those movies. Every few months, deputies practice in them using training rounds designed to minimize lead exposure. Like regular indoor ranges, shooting trailers require regular cleaning to prevent a dangerous buildup of lead and gunpowder. Oh, really? So it doesn't sound like they're that much safer than. A former range deputy with the sheriff's department explained the problem in more detail. When you shoot a gun, there's gunpowder and explosives inside the cartridge, the deputy said, asking to remain anonymous due to pending litigation involving the department. Not all of that gunpowder burns. Sometimes it ends up on the floor in front of you. Sometimes it ends up on your hand. It's a known problem, he said, and can lead to blazes that get out of control. That's pretty crazy. That must be a shit ton of gunpowder, or like a shit ton of shooting, but I guess so, yeah. Though mobile ranges are a common law enforcement tool, it's not clear how often they catch fire. Multiple range experts said fires appear to be rare. The National Law Enforcement Firearms Instructions Association said it does not track that data, and that the risk of fires from unburned gunpowder is a possibility at any range that isn't adequately cleaned and ventilated. When you tell me that there's a fire inside a range, most often that means it either hasn't been maintained properly or they're not using the right kind of ammo, said Ludos, vice president of Mobile Tactics, which uses range trailers to conduct firearms qualifications and training across the country. For who? We've really been active since 2015, and we have never had an incident, never had an injury with anyone on a trailer. So this is just some like random dude that is, bought his own trailer, is going around letting people shoot in it. He's never had any incidents, but the LA County Police Department has like had multiple upon multiple, like 5, which is huge, The first mobile range fire sheriff's department officials could find any record of was in 2016, when a contractor working on a trailer parked at the department's Tactic and Survival Training Center started using a grinder, a type of power tool that cuts metal inside the structure. Sparks from the grinder started a fire, but when the Times asked for more details this month, officials did not specify whether anyone was injured or how much damage the fire caused. That was in 2016. 3 years later, in March 2019, Prosper and a few deputies at the Marina Del Rey station decided to set up a training scenario to prepare for the possibility of an active shooter on boat. Oh my God, you guys. That's the same place that they had the searches for after this like latest one, like in like July 17th, just like a couple weeks ago. So that means like, so they were saying, yeah, well, there was this place in Santa Monica that they were looking that apparently had like these explosives that these guys were dealing with. But then they also reported that the next day that they were doing search warrants at this Marina Del Rey on boats, and that they were taking stuff from boats. So it's like really interesting here to hear that one of the training centers that apparently keeps like, catching on fire and whatever is in the same place that they were searching the other week, right? Do you see the connection? I mean, right? It's kind of like what would that mean? You know what I mean? I feel like that their training departments are storing all of this like weapon and ammo incorrectly to the point where 3 people are getting blown up on a Friday morning. Like, this is shady. And I feel like it definitely has to do with some of these instructors or training centers, or I don't know, maybe not. But anyways, I think that is a interesting connection there. All right, so it says 3 years later, in March 2019, Prosper and a few deputies at the Marina del Rey station decided to set up a training scenario to prepare for the possibility of an active shooter on a boat. Prosper, who'd previously worked in SWAT, said he suggested starting off the scenario with a flashbang trainer, a non-explosive device that resembles another common tool in the law enforcement arsenal, a flashbang or a stun grenade. Okay, this is like not, this is separate, but this makes me wonder and think about the Idaho 4 case and what Bethany heard. Like, yeah. Anyways, so that's interesting if she heard that, because I mean, obviously people that can get flashbangs and like stuff like that, I guess, on the black market, but it's also interesting to hear that it's easy to get like in law enforcement training situations as well. Okay. A traditional flashbang is a type of explosive that's typically not lethal and is used to disorient suspects with a bright flash and a loud bang. A flashbang trainer is a reusable version of the device that makes a loud noise but doesn't contain any explosives. What did Bethany say? That she woke up to like a loud bang, like something like a firework, but did she say she didn't see the firework, that she just heard it? Before setting off a loud noise in public and possibly causing panic, Propster wanted to try out the device in a more controlled setting to check how loud it really was. Since the range trailer had soundproofing, he said, he and the other deputies decided to test it out there. The first time, Prosper said, the device went off without a hitch. One of the other deputies suggested trying it a second time without ear protection. Why would you ever do that? They heard the loud boom they expected, but then they saw a fizzle, somewhat like an old dynamite fuse. Propster told Internal Affairs investigators at the time, according to a recording of the interview that he shared with the Times. A flame about the size of a large candle popped up, he continued. It was probably an inch high. One of the other deputies stomped out the flame with his foot. Propster told investigators. As soon as he did, 2 more flames popped up nearby, and he shouted for another deputy to bring a fire extinguisher. Yikes. He doused it, but 2 seconds later, flames went running up the wall, Propster told the Times. We ran towards the door, and the flame began to swirl and burn everything and chase us out. It was like a movie. Wow. That's insane. Why would they be letting them? I mean, that would be so easy for even just like a spark off of like shooting a gun. I mean, like sparks come out of the end of the gun when you shoot it. So like that could easily cause these huge explosions too, right? But like, so what's, I mean, this seems like a really stupid setup. I don't know. Something seems weird with this. The 3 deputies in the trailers ran to the door and burst outside, narrowly escaping as the trailer went up in flames. Unspent ammunition started to pop and explode. When firefighters arrived, Propster said they struggled to extinguish the blaze. That comes up in a lot of these other instances I'm going to explain to you, is like it's super hard to extinguish these blazes. It's like there's something that makes them like extra just unable to get burnt out, where they have to just basically do a controlled like explosion burn until it just, all of it gets used up, you know? Um, it stayed hot for 2 days. He said it reignited twice. What the fuck, dude? Why are they still using these? This is weird as fuck. Ultimately, Propster said he and the other deputies involved were all punished with 5 days of unpaid leave. Why? Department officials confirmed that employees had been disciplined in connection with the Marina Del Rey incident, but did not offer specifics. That's shady. That makes it definitely sound like it wasn't just like a whoopsie, like that they did something wrong that like caused that to happen or something. Even though Propster knew he'd started the fire, albeit accidentally, he came away from the incident worried about the department's continued use of range trailers. Yeah, obviously. If you have one fire, it's a one-off, he said. Two, okay, what's causing this? Right, exactly. If they have five, what the fuck? That same year, a trailer parked near the Castilla jail complex caught fire. One of those deputies that just passed away from that explosion used to work at that jail complex too. As with the 2016 blaze, officials said the cause was a contractor with a power tool. A contractor with a power tool? Yeah, that seems like convenient. Again, the department said the incident was investigated but did not offer additional details. Dude, we need like transparency, you know? This year's fire also started in a trailer near the Castilla complex. Officials said the range trailer, originally purchased in 1992, making it one of the department's oldest, which is the same year that that first deputy started working. I don't know, you know, just another parallel there. Um, oh, and he was a trainer. All of them were trainers. Mm. Um, has been serviced and cleaned by an outside contractor in July. Had been serviced and cleaned by an outside contractor in July. The department's Facilities Services Bureau did normal trailer maintenance there in September. That's weird that it was cleaned by an outside contractor. What the fuck? When the blaze began earlier this month, there were two deputies inside, a 17-year veteran assigned to North County Correctional Facility, which is another one where one of those other PDs or sheriff deputies worked, and a 20-year veteran assigned to Silmar Court. One was taking a department-mandated recertification test, and the other, the range master, was supervising. What is this? Majority of LA County Sheriff deputies did not complete training requirements. Of course not. They are recovering and expected to survive, except we know that in April next year, from this article, that Flores did die from his burns. Oops. Representatives for Embarrass Training Solutions, like, what are these, like, all of these like private companies that are like training for law enforcement? Like, what is that? That's so weird. Like, what regulations do they have to follow? Like, who's training our soldier? Like, not our soldiers, but who's training our law enforcement, you know? The company officials said, but the trailer did not, or wait, the company officials said built the trailer did not respond to a request for comment. The sheriff's department has not yet said how the fire started, but department spokeswoman Nicole Nishida said investigators have preliminarily determined it was accidental. Right. All the prior fires were determined to be caused by a peripheral circumstances and not due to the operational functionality of the mobile ranges, Nishida added. I mean, seriously, like, how can she, like, that's just like, seems like a blatant lie. Like, why even say that, you know? Like, the Marina del Rey incident was due to inappropriate use of the mobile range, and the other two fires were caused by contractors doing maintenance to the interior. Several nearby sheriff's departments, including those in Ventura, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties, told the Times they do not use range trailers, but for those that do, the recent fire has been a cause for concern. The San Diego's Sheriff's Department said it has one range trailer, but isn't currently using it because there are no firearm qualifications underway at the moment. The department hasn't had any problems with the trailer in the past, according to Lieutenant David Ledoux. But officials are aware of the situation in Los Angeles and will monitor it, he said. San Diego, okay. Since the incident in Castaic, the Orange County Sheriff's Department has stopped using its two mobile pistol ranges, even though officials there also said they hadn't seen any signs of a problem. We felt it was imperative to take every precaution by shutting down and ensuring they are inspected for any potential hazards, Sergeant Mike Woodruff told the Times in an email. We currently do not have a date when we expect our MPRs, mobile pistol ranges, to be operational again, but we will not rush, as the safety of all that utilize them are our top priority. Yeah, obviously. By taking the mobile ranges offline, taking the mobile ranges offline could create another problem for departments, especially those in large counties, when it comes to ensuring deputies complete their firearms qualifications. In Los Angeles, those qualifications typically take place 4 times a year, and it's not yet clear how that will work for now, or whether the department will ultimately resume its use of the mobile trailers. In the meantime, Nishida said, we are looking into alternative options for firearm qualifications for personnel throughout the county. Interesting. Okay. And then here's like another thing that was noteworthy to me. Let's see. LA to pay 21 million in settlements tied to botched fireworks detonation by police. So here we go again. We're seeing an overlap of sheriff's deputies or police deputies or whatever, officers, and like oopsie explosions. Okay. 3 years after Los Angeles police blew up a South LA neighborhood while detonating a cache of fireworks, the city will pay more than 20 million to resolve the claims of many residents who were displaced and are still living in a hotel. Still, 3 years later, wow. So this article is dated July 2nd, 2024. The city council unanimously approved settlements with more than a dozen residents on Tuesday, days after the anniversary of the June 30th, 2021 blast. The settlements will now go to Mayor Karen Bass for approval. The city agreed to pay one resident, Lucia Gonzalez, $175,000. Rosalina Reyes will receive $1.07 million, which the family's lawyer said is strictly for property damage and does not include personal injury. But the largest settlement to resolve property and personal injury claims of more than a dozen residents of the working class neighborhood is $20 million. The awards range from $100,000 to $2.8 million for the 17 claimants. City Councilman Kern Price, in whose district the explosion occurred, said in a statement Tuesday that the process over the last 3 years has been agonizingly slow, and on behalf of the city of Los Angeles, I regret that it took so long to reach this point. The victims of the 27th Street fireworks explosion have endured unimaginable pain and trauma that will last a lifetime, Price said. Reaching these financial settlements were a crucial step toward their healing, rebuilding their lives, and finding stability and peace. Price amended the motion for the 20 million settlement to also extend the stay at the Level Hotel downtown through February for affected residents. He also moved to extend services of All People's Community Center, which had been providing assistance and resources to residents since the blast. City Controller Kenneth Mejia's office calculated that as of February, the explosion has cost the city close to $10.5 million. In an email, Diana Chang, a MEHA spokesperson, said the relocation of displaced residents has cost $5.3 million in addition to $2.3 million for liability claims and $1.55 million for cleanup and repair, $1.3 million for the LAPD's containment vehicle to replace the one destroyed by the blast, and a little more than $44,000 for city labor, not including the cost for police officers. The truth is, this incident should have never happened, was entirely preventable, and we're still reeling from it all these years later, Price said. About 42 residents are still living in 13 rooms at level. The settlements would cover many of those residents, according to city officials, but there are still outstanding claims, including an additional one from the Rice family. The city attorney's office did not provide a breakdown of how many claims remain. Once the settlement checks are issued, families in the hotel will only have up to 90 days to find alternative housing, according to Price's office. They're basically just like saying that they're going to release them. Okay, on June 30th, 2021, the LAPD bomb squad, so same one that just these three guys were a part of, bungled the detonation of a fireworks cache discovered in the backyard of a home on 27th Street. I'd be interested to see, like, in terms of, like, maybe I'll go back and try to put these all into a map and see where they come up on locations, like if there's any rhyme or reason to kind of the locations of them. The blast injured 17 people in badly damaged homes. More than 80 residents were displaced. The illegal fireworks, oh, so they were illegal. Oh, well, wait. The illegal fireworks were found at the home of Arturo Sihat III, who pleaded guilty to federal court to unlicensed transport of explosives from Nevada to California. So you'll see as I start to get into other stories that I do kind of like cross into, like, there's a lot of incidents that you see like in Utah and Nevada and Oregon. So he was sentenced to 5 months in prison and 2 years of supervised release. Siha was not fined and will pay no restitution, the U.S. Attorney's Office said. That's a pretty good deal. Despite repeated demands from residents who lost their homes to the blast, the names and formal discipline for officers involved in the matter had largely remained veiled because of the LAPD's secretive disciplinary system and its refusal to discuss personnel matters. That's bullshit. Like, the police have way too much fucking protection. Like, it's disgusting. Like, I don't even know why we're letting them get away with it still. Last year, the Times identified the bomb squad personnel involved. Among them was Detective Damian Levisk, the supervisor on scene who repeatedly walked away from critical discussions about the safety of the operation. Mel Hogg, the lead technician who did not weigh the powder from the fireworks the team intended to detonate and instead grossly underestimated its explosive power, and Mark Richardson, who helped Hogg X-ray samples from the explosives. Brennan McCarty, who warned his fellow technicians and Levesque that the plan was not safe, Thomas DeLucia, who helped load the commercial fireworks discovered at the home, and Stephanie Alsurker, who was primarily responsible for constructing a countercharge, the explosive used to detonate the fireworks inside the department's total containment vessel, which failed in the blast. Wow, that's a lot. So it sounds like they did do the x-ray and that they underestimated its explosive power. That's like, I think it sounds pretty much almost exactly like what happened at this site, just last month. It says bomb technicians at the scene believe the maximum capabilities of the containment vessel was 40 pounds of net explosive weight, according to the Los Angeles Police Department Inspector's General Report, but the vessel actually was rated to handle only 33 pounds of explosives. Well, okay. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives later determined the bomb squad had loaded the vessel with 39.8 pounds of explosives. That amount includes the countercharge. It is my firm expectation that the LAPD has learned from this disaster and has taken every necessary step to prevent such tragedies from occurring ever again in the future for the sake of our city, Price said in his statement. Well, please lower. This is interesting. This says historic Gardena fireworks bust is so huge. State bomb unit and ATF are called in to help. This is from June 25th of 2024. So it was like right after the explosion at the mobile range. Huh. And then here's another one that says police lower the boom on Pasadena man accused of setting off over 150 explosions in 2 years. What the fuck is that? Okay, so I'm gonna like look into these and get back to you. But I also have several things that happened this year. These are things that happened last year, but I think it is still important to look kind of at like the overall of all of the cases, because as we can see, this case from 2024 sounds really similar to the one that just happened. So I'll look into these, and then I'll plan on trying to come live again tomorrow before the evening time, because I am going to a play. So I'll try to come back on and finish that, and tonight I'll go through some of my notes and try to get them a little bit more organized. But I think I'm kind of bummed that today's live didn't cover more incidents, but these incidents aren't going anywhere, and if anything, more just keep on coming up a little bit. So I guess it, at least we'll just continue it, and hopefully along the path things will start coming up and we can start paying attention to more of those. But I'll try to be, I mean, these last ones that I've talked about, these last like 2 or 3 are pretty like significant in terms of like, deaths of law enforcement and the size of the explosions and like how many victims there were. The ones that I'm going to be presenting like in the future that I have all written down right now are a lot less significant, but they still are worthy of noting. But I don't think they'll be taking like an hour or 2 hours to be able, or to actually like review it. So please join me next time for, I think it'll be tomorrow, but I don't know, I was thinking about maybe putting out like a community like poll. I've never done that before, and asking like whether or not, because okay, to be honest, like I was like reading through those documents from the unsealed ones from the Koberger case, and I guess I mentioned earlier in the video, it started to get just like a little tedious and monotonous and boring. And so I'm just like wondering if it's even worth continuing to do that, and like maybe a better option would be for me to review the documents myself, like maybe do a review of 50 documents and then do a live where I discuss like all of the highlights and kind of go over the documents rather than actually read every single document word for word. I mean, I think it's helpful for me to be reading all the documents word for word, at least in terms of like me. I want to read it all. And that's kind of why I was like, well, maybe I'll read it out loud, because then other people probably feel that same way. But being, again, like how tedious and monotonous and like just boring it's been and how long it's going to take, I'm wondering if it might just be smarter for me to do, like I said, those 1 hour kind of highlight summaries of the documents in segments of like 50 documents, maybe 25 or something, depending on like how detailed they are. I don't know how I would write that out on a poll, but if you guys have any opinions about that, please comment down below. And if you listen to this whole thing, thank you so much. I hope that you are slightly intrigued by some of the things that I presented in today's live, and hopefully you are interested in tuning in to hear some more weird alignments or overlaps. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would like super appreciate it if you did. It's free and it helps out me a ton. And also, if you like the video, to press thumbs up, because that super helps like smaller creators as well. And hope everyone is having a good Friday, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace and love. Bye.